Welcome to the Deep Dive, the show where we take a stack of sources, chew through all the data, and hopefully spit out some pure, fascinating insight for you.
And today we were diving into a collection that I have to say reveals a truly bizarre, yet I think brilliant corner of the culinary world.
I agree. We are looking at a collection of recipes made specifically for children. But the names, the names alone range from, delightfully charming to, well, if we're being honest, downright disturbing.
Oh, intentionally so. It's a phenomenal study in behavioral psychology just disguised as a cookbook.
Right.
What this collection shows is that when you're trying to appeal to a kid's palate, the actual flavor of the dish is often secondary to the sheer theatrical performance of it.
The presentation is everything.
Exactly. The cooking instructions themselves are, in most cases, deceptively basic. They're pantry staples. But the names, the concepts, they are pure genius. They leverage a child's natural curiosity and, well, maybe their slight fascination with the grotesque.
Okay, let's unpack that. Our mission today isn't just to read recipes. It's to walk through this whole collection, try to understand the very practical, foundational cooking techniques being taught, and then appreciate the creative and sometimes absolutely shocking visual and naming ideas used to get kids to eat.
And that engagement is the entire point. The collection's promise is right there in the title. Most wanted kids' recipes, your favorite dishes at your fingertips. It's an immersion into a world where, everyday ingredients, puffed rice cereal, canned spaghetti sauce, cream cheese are suddenly transformed.
They become actors in this little gross-out horror show.
Or a silly cartoon character. It's about teaching these fundamental kitchen skills, but it's all under the guise of this outrageous, entertaining adventure.
So let's start where I started, which was the table of contents.
Yeah.
Because when I first scanned the index for this collection, I experienced genuine physical whiplash.
I can imagine.
One moment, I'm reading something utterly familiar, comforting, wholesome. And the next, I feel like I need to go wash my hands just for having read the title.
And that tension is entirely deliberate. It's an immediate, visceral hook. It's the exact psychological mechanism you use to convince a child to try something they might otherwise just flat out reject.
So it's a trick.
It is. Think about it. If you offer a kid plain cottage cheese, you're probably going to meet some resistance.
Probably.
But if you call that exact same dish brain cell salad or hairball salad, you've immediately created a narrative. It's a story that the child wants to interact with.
That makes so much sense. You have these mundane, sensible classics just sitting right there, side by side, with something that feels like it belongs in a B-movie prop department.
Exactly. The playful names, especially the gross ones, make basic ingredients appealing because they offer this sense of forbidden fun, a little transgression.
Okay, I'm going to run through the first 25 titles in the index, and I really want you, our listener, to just appreciate the rapid, jarring roller coaster ride of flavor, sweetness, and, well, fear that these titles suggest. Are you ready for this?
I am. Let's brace ourselves for this culinary schizophrenia.
Okay, we start off tame. Number 1, after school makes.
Totally normal.
2, base pancakes.
Classic.
3, board and cracker jack.
Yep, still in safe territory.
And here is where the shift happens. Number 4, brain cell salad.
Okay, there it is.
5, brains on the half skull.
Whoa.
6, butchered snake bits with barbecue sauce.
Hold on a second. We went from popcorn and pancakes to the surgical dissection of a snake in 3 steps.
And 3 titles.
That pacing has to be intentional. It's designed to keep you guessing.
Yeah.
You're immediately intrigued. Right, how did they possibly achieve the visual of a snake using, kitchen staples?
Okay, let's move back to safety for a moment. Number 7, butter mints.
Okay, we're good.
8, cannoli for kids.
A little ambitious, but fine.
Then we enter this, systematic exploration of caramel. 9, caramel corn version 1. 10, caramel corn version 2.
Okay.
11, caramel nut corn. 12, caramel corn pops. 13, caramel peanuts.
What's so interesting there is just the sheer repetition. It suggests that the perfect caramel formula was a really high priority goal for this collection. They dedicated 5 whole titles just to achieving slightly different versions of a crunchy, sweet coating.
But just when you think it's all about candy chemistry, the collection throws us right back into the deep end with a vengeance. Number 14.
I'm ready.
Cat litter casserole.
Wow. Okay. Just wow.
And right after that, number 15. Cat's eyes.
A little less horrifying, but still in that sort of creature feature zone.
Then we get snack bar simplicity again. 16. Cheerio bars. 17. Cheese and Fruit Witch. 18. Chex and Chocolate Party Mix. 19. Chicken pox pancakes.
Okay, chickenpox pancakes is towing the line. It's a little gross, but also kind of playful.
It is 20. Chocolate peanut butter dip, 21. Chocolate snack blocks.
So we're settling back into the recognizable here.
Yeah.
Using breakfast cereal, pantry dips, it shows how the collection anchors itself in the practical before it, attempts the truly outrageous.
But of course, that practicality is very short-lived. 22.
Yep.
Chocolate spiders version 1.
Okay.
23. Chocolate spiders version 2.
I really wanted to get those spiders right.
And then, to round out the first 25, 24. Chopped off fingers pizza.
Of course.
And 25. Chucky's Upchuck recipe.
And there it is, Chucky's Upchuck. I mean, even listing them in sequence, the energy just shifts so dramatically. You go from something simple like Cheerio bars to the realm of fictional gore.
Right. From caramel corn prep straight to chopped off fingers pizza. The juxtaposition forces you to engage with the material in a totally different way.
It really does. And the genius, which we'll get into, is that the complexity lies entirely in the naming and the presentation. The name is doing all the heavy lifting, not the actual cooking technique.
Exactly. It's simple but powerful psychology. You're creating a narrative around the food that just completely bypasses the standard resistance. A kid isn't just eating pizza, they're playing with movie props. It just fundamentally changes the whole emotional context of eating.
It really does.
Okay, let's begin with some of those practical recipes that sort of anchor this whole collection. The quick snacks, the simple meals that form the building blocks. We'll start with efficiency, the after-school mix from page 4.
Right. This is a classic homemade version of a snack mix, and it prioritizes speed and texture above all else. It's incredibly straightforward. It relies heavily on the microwave, which is great for convenience and, safety with kids.
So what's in it?
You start with a huge base, 9 cups of wheat, rice, and corn cereal, a blend of different textures.
It's a lot of cereal.
It makes a big batch. And the binding agent, the thing that gives it that rich, sweet, nutty flavor, is a mix of a half cup of creamy peanut butter, a 1/4 teaspoon of vanilla, a 1/4 cup of butter, and a very generous 1 cup of semi-sweet chocolate pieces.
And the method is beautiful in its simplicity. You just combine the chocolate butter and peanut butter in a microwavable bowl.
A 1-quart bowl, specifically.
You nuke it on high for 60 to 90 seconds, stir it after a minute, and you get this unified, smooth glaze.
And then you add the vanilla, pour it over the cereal, and stir until every single piece is coated evenly.
But that's not the last step, right? There's a crucial final touch.
Yes, and this part is crucial for the presentation and that signature messy texture that kids love. You take the coated cereal mix and you shake it with 1.5 cups of powdered sugar in a big resealable plastic bag.
So that's what gives it that powdery, delightful coating.
It is, and it also stops it from just sticking together in one giant clump. Once it cools on wax paper, you store it in an airtight container. It's a perfect 5-minute project that makes a huge amount of snack mix.
The collection also reminds us that even when things get theatrical, the foundation has to be solid. Let's look at basic pancakes on page 5. This is a culinary fundamental.
It's a classic no-fail batter recipe designed for volume. You've got 3 cups of sifted flour, 1.5 tablespoons of Calumet baking powder.
It's interesting they specify the brand.
It is. Calumet is a double-acting baking powder, so it suggests they're going for reliability and a good lift. Then you have 1 teaspoon of salt combined dry.
And the wet ingredients.
2 large eggs and 2 cups of whole milk. You combine those and add them to the flour mixture. The instruction is to incorporate it well, but not overmix. That's key for avoiding tough pancakes.
I'm always guilty of overmixing.
It's easy to do. And the final step is to slowly add 2 tablespoons of oil. That adds richness and helps prevent sticking.
And it offers a couple of simple variations.
Standard, but important for showing versatility. You can add 2 tablespoons of sugar and 2 teaspoons of cinnamon to sweeten the batter. Or you can add fresh or frozen blueberries for those flavor bursts. It really shows that the core recipe is just a blank slate for creativity.
Okay, let's look at another simple binder-based snack, Cheerio bars on page 20. This one holds together without any baking.
Yes, this is a structural feat. It uses a half cup of creamy peanut butter, a half cup of refined sugar, and a half cup of pure honey.
And the trick here is creating a kind of quick, hot glue from the sugars.
Yeah, that's a perfect way to describe it. The instruction is to boil the honey and sugar together in a saucepan. Then you remove it from the heat, add the peanut butter, and stir it until it's all blended into this sticky, molten mass.
And you pour that over 3 cups of Cheerios.
Mix it thoroughly, then spread it onto a buttered 9 by 13 inch pan. Once it cools and you cut it, you have these solid, pretty nutrient-dense grab-and-go bars. The whole thing relies on the honey and sugar cooling down and acting as an adhesive.
They're moving to something more interactive for serving. The chocolate peanut butter dip on page 24. This seems extremely simple, but it's really about the presentation.
For sure. It's an engaging way to present healthy things like fruits alongside, cookies and pretzels. The entire dish rests on a creamy foundation of 3 ounces of softened cream cheese.
And you beat that until it's smooth with a third of a cup of creamy peanut butter and just a tiny bit of cinnamon, a 1/16 of a teaspoon.
That little bit of cinnamon adds a nice warmth. And the depth of flavor and the right dipping consistency come from the binders. You slowly add 2 tablespoons of whole milk and a 1/4 cup of chocolate syrup while you're continuously beating it.
Until it's fully blended and uniformly smooth.
Right, and you serve it chilled. It's a perfect example of turning simple cream cheese into this decadent delivery system for other snacks.
Okay, let's shift to sandwiches, because this collection has a few, and they showcase the full and sometimes very strange spectrum of this collection's approach to flavor.
They really do. Let's start with cheese and fruit witch on page 21. This one feels relatively safe and wholesome.
It does. It's softened cream cheese mixed with chopped unsalted peanuts and sliced crisp apple. And it has a very practical tip.
Yes, rubbing the apple slices with lemon juice to prevent discoloration. That's solid kitchen advice. It shows an attention to visual detail even in a simple snack. And it's all served on date nut bread. It's a sensible, healthy snack.
But then we get to the cream cheese sandwich on page 33. And this is where the collection just throws us a curveball we have to analyze.
Oh, I know this one. The base is simple enough. Cream cheese mixed with a variety of optional ingredients.
Right. Chopped nuts, grated veggies, diced fruits, raisins, chopped dates, all good, predictable choices.
But wait for it. The very last optional ingredient listed is 1 to 3 teaspoons of minced clams.
Rinsed clams to be spread on bread with cream cheese.
It's a fascinating anomaly. Why are minced clams listed right alongside chopped nuts and raisins in a kid's recipe book? I mean, what is the context here?
That inclusion is a total head-scratcher. It's such a bold, confusing choice for standard children's food. Is it a regional thing, maybe where canned clams were a pantry staple? Is it an attempt to introduce, sophisticated umami flavors to older kids?
It certainly breaks the mold. It implies this book is aimed at a parent who's willing to take some risks in flavor education, or maybe just someone who is using up whatever they have in the pantry in a creative way. It's highly experimental.
The other sandwiches are a bit more conventional. The fruit sandwich on page 45 is based on cottage cheese curds.
A great source of protein. It's mixed with chopped fruit apple, pear, apricot plus slivered almonds, and crushed fresh pineapple in its own juice. It's a very health-forward idea, basically a sweet, creamy, open-faced salad on bread.
And we can't overlook the bolder, savory classics, like the curry tuna sandwich on page 36. This uses flaked tuna, water-packed, which is a lower-fat choice.
And it's combined with mayonnaise, lemon juice, curry powder, and prepared horseradish.
That combination of curry powder and horseradish is assertive. That's not a timid flavor profile.
Not at all. It makes for a surprisingly zesty, open-faced spread. And it's served on white bread cut into circles for 12 little miniature sandwiches. It subtly suggests that this collection isn't just for toddlers, but maybe for older kids being introduced to bolder, more international flavors. It shows that even humble canned tuna can be sophisticated.
And finally, under these simple delights, we have crunchy French toast from page 34, which elevates a breakfast staple purely through texture.
The key differentiating factor here is the coating. The bread is first dipped in the standard wet mix egg, milk, cinnamon, refined sugar.
But then it gets a second coating.
Exactly. It's immediately coated in a secondary dry mixture of coconut flakes and crushed corn flakes. That creates this fantastic textural contrast. When you cook it on a skillet with butter until it's golden, the exterior becomes incredibly crispy and textured. It's a brilliant elevation of basic French toast. It turns a soft dish into one that demands engagement just because of its sound and feel.
Okay, so now we make a definitive transition. We're moving from simple spreads and coatings to the truly technical side of this collection, actual candy making.
Yes, this section is surprisingly scientific. It requires precise temperature control and a real understanding of specific candy stages, all in the pursuit of making perfectly crisp, flavored popcorn and nuts.
This is where that inversion of complexity is clearest, isn't it? The dishes with the simplest names like caramel corn demand the most rigor.
Absolutely. You're moving from estimation and microwaving to precise confectionery chemistry. Specifically, when we're talking about caramel for popcorn, we're focused on reaching the hard ball or hard crack stage. This thermal precision dictates the entire final texture. Is the coating going to be chewy or is it going to be brittle and shatteringly crisp?
Let's start with the Cracker Jack recipes. There are two. Borden Cracker Jack on page 6 and homemade Cracker Jacks on page 48. Both require high temperatures and meticulous timing.
The Borden Cracker Jack recipe is very comprehensive. It begins by preheating the oven to 250 degrees Fahrenheit. You combine 4 quarts of popcorn with Spanish peanuts, and you put them in the warm oven.
Why do that? Why warm them up first?
It keeps them receptive to the hot syrup. If you pour hot caramel onto cold popcorn, it can seize up too quickly and not coat evenly. The caramel itself is a blend of molasses, brown sugar, light corn syrup, butter, and salt.
And this syrup mixture is the key. It has to be boiled over medium heat until it reaches a very specific temperature.
260 degrees Fahrenheit, or what's called the hard boil stage. This process takes a substantial 20 to 25 minutes of careful watching.
Let's define that for the listener. What is the hardball stage?
So the hardball stage is around 250 to 266 degrees. At that temperature, if you drop a little of the sugar syrup into cold water, it forms a firm, pliable ball. At 260, you're pushing the upper end of that range. The syrup gets darker, the moisture content is extremely low, and that's what leads to a super crisp final product.
Once you have this super hot caramel, you pour it quickly over the warm popcorn and peanuts. But then there's a crucial secondary step, the baking.
Yes, it's baked again at 250 degrees for about 15 minutes, and you have to mix it thoroughly every 5 minutes.
Why is that long, low-temperature bake so essential?
That bake is the moisture removal phase.
Yeah.
Even after you hit 260 degrees, there's still some residual moisture that can make the coating sticky or chewy instead of crisp. The low-temperature bake fully cures the caramel, turning it into a glass-like shell. It dries off that last little bit of water.
Now, let's compare that very technical approach to the homemade Cracker Jacks version on page 48.
This one uses a different syrup. 4 cups of popcorn and 1 cup of peanuts are mixed with a simpler syrup of a ½ cup of molasses and a ¼ cup of sugar. But crucially, the syrup is only cooked until it reaches 235 degrees Fahrenheit.
And they provide a practical old-school test for that temperature, dropping the mixture from a spoon into iced water, where it should form threads.
And that thread stage, 230 to 235 degrees, is a much, much softer stage than the 260-degree hard boil. It means the final product will retain a lot more moisture and will probably be much chewier, closer to a soft taffy texture than the aggressive crunch of the Borden version.
So a difference of just 25 degrees Fahrenheit completely changes the final mouthfeel.
Completely. That's why confectionery demands such precision.
Okay, let's look at the pure caramel corn variations, starting with caramel corn version 1 on page 12. This one uses 6 quarts of unsalted popcorn.
The caramel here is a standard blend. Butter, brown sugar, light corn syrup, and salt. But the instruction specifies boiling this mixture for 5 minutes without stirring.
That's a critical instruction in candy making. Why no stirring?
Because stirring can introduce sugar crystals from the side of the pan back into the mixture. That can cause a chain reaction where the entire batch crystallizes and becomes grainy, ruining that smooth, glossy caramel texture.
And after it's off the heat, you add vanilla and baking soda. The baking soda is fascinating. What role does that play at the very end?
The baking soda, or sodium bicarbonate, is the critical aerating agent. When you add it to the hot, acidic sugar syrup, it reacts vigorously and releases carbon dioxide gas.
Oh, so it fizzes.
It fizzes up like crazy, and that immediately creates millions of tiny bubbles in the caramel. As the caramel cools, those bubbles get trapped, and that's what makes the coating porous, brittle, and tender rather than dense and rock hard. It's the secret to non-sticky, easily chewable caramel corn.
And then it's baked, uncovered, for an hour at 250 degrees, stirring every 15 minutes for that uniform finish.
The classic technique.
Then we have caramel corn version 2 on page 13. This one introduces an ingredient often used by pros, cream of tartar.
Cream of tartar is a powdered acid, potassium bitartrate. Its main function in candy making is as an anti-crystallization agent.
So it's another way to prevent that grainy texture.
Exactly. By adding an acid, you break down the sucrose molecules into smaller inverted sugar molecules, glucose and fructose, which are less likely to line up and form crystals. This ensures the syrup stays perfectly smooth and glassy. Here, the syrup mixture, sugar, corn syrup, salt, butter, and cream of tartar is boiled until it hits that hardball stage, 260 degrees.
So we have 2 different methods to achieve glassy caramel. One relies on meticulous handling, the no-stirring rule in version 1, and the other relies on a chemical intervention with the cream of tartar in version 2. But both demand that high 260-degree precision.
And this version is baked at a slightly lower 200 degrees for 60 minutes. It shows that even within a narrow specialty like caramel corn, there's a variety of precise techniques that all lead to a similar goal, a crunchy, dry coating. And both recipes emphasize breaking the mixture apart once it's cooled, otherwise you end up with one giant, immovable brick of candy.
And we also see modern shortcuts reflected in the collection, like microwave caramel corn on page 54.
This is a nod to efficiency and safety. You avoid working with a massive pot of 260-degree molten sugar on the stovetop. You just combine 2 packs of pre-microwave popcorn with a caramel made from brown sugar, white Karo syrup, and butter, which is boiled quickly for 5 minutes.
And after coating the corn, the crucial step is that it's microwaved again for just 1 minute.
Right. That 1 minute in the microwave seems designed to rapidly distribute the heat and finish drying the coating without the hour-long bake. It dramatically cuts the prep time while achieving a pretty similar crispness.
And the variations continue to show the adaptability of this core technique, like mixed fruit and toffee corn.
That one sounds quite luxurious, and it involves the syrup being cooked only to 225 degrees F. This is the softball stage.
What's the difference there?
Well, at 225 degrees, the syrup is much softer, so it yields a chewy, more pliable product. It's made from butter, refined sugar, light corn syrup, and water. Then vanilla, broken pecans, and 1.5 cups of dried mixed fruit bits are added. It's then baked at 300 degrees for just 15 minutes.
The lower temperature and shorter bake time, plus the fruit, completely changes the final experience. It's less about the brittle Cracker Jack crunch and more about a chewy, nutty toffee experience.
Perfect for holding those fruit pieces in place. And other variations use that same fundamental high-heat caramel coating with different things mixed in. Caramel nut corn is heavy on the nuts, with 3 cups of halved walnuts.
And Caramel Corn Pops uses a box of Corn Pop cereal instead of popcorn, but follows that same proven hour-long 250-degree bake with quarter-hour stirring. It shows how reliable that technique is for popcorn, cereals, nuts, pretty much anything.
And finally, tucked away in this technically demanding section is a surprisingly thoughtful recipe. Diabetic Kids Snackin' Corn on page 39.
That inclusion feels like a powerful statement about the collection's awareness of its audience. It focuses on using 9 cups of air-popped corn, deliberately avoiding oil to reduce the fat content.
And the topping replaces the standard sugar and syrup caramel entirely. It's a simple combination of 1/3 cup of peanut butter and 1 tablespoon of butter, melted together until runny. You drizzle it over the corn and bake it for a brief 10 minutes at 375 degrees.
Why the high heat and short time for this version, compared to the 60 minutes at 250 for the caramel ones?
Because the goal isn't to cure a caramel shell, which requires that slow drying. The goal here is just to toast the corn and set that thin peanut butter coating, turning it into a crispy, nutty shell without adding a ton of fat or sugar. It's a very quick, efficient way to add flavor and crispness while catering to specific dietary needs.
Okay, we've covered the necessary precision of the sweet recipes. Now, we enter the most famous, or maybe infamous, part of this collection. The hall of mirrors where food becomes body parts and various unsettling substances.
This is where the creativity in naming and presentation truly shines. The skill here isn't in the cooking, it's in the arrangement and the mimicry.
Let's dive right into Brains on the Half Skull on page 8. I initially thought this might involve some complex molding, but the ingredients are remarkably simple.
It's a delightful carb-on-carb optical illusion. The method starts with cutting medium potatoes lengthwise and baking them at 400 degrees for 40 minutes. These hollowed-out baked potato skins are the literal skull component.
And the brains.
The brains are angel hair spaghetti, cooked and stirred into a 14-ounce jar of spaghetti sauce. Angel hair pasta, because it's so thin and fine, creates like wonderful, messy, tangled texture that you need for the illusion.
And you just spoon it inside the potato shells.
Messily. The presentation is everything. The tangled pasta smothered in red sauce perfectly mimics the grotesque, vascular texture that the name implies. It's brilliant in its simplicity.
The detail in butchered snake bits with barbecue sauce on page 9 is incredible. It's a complex assembly job for a very simple pasta dish.
This is a structural marvel. It uses 10 ounces of rigatoni pasta, cooked, drained, and crucially rinsed in cold water. That makes it easier to handle and helps it retain its shape.
And then the pasta tubes are filled with something interesting.
2 cans of squirtable cheese spread.
Squirtable cheese from a pressurized can. That is a dedication to structural integrity.
It has to be. Squirtable cheese is highly processed for a very specific consistency and texture. When you pipe it into the rigatoni tubes, it holds its shape perfectly. It prevents the bits from collapsing. It's not just flavor, it's a high-viscosity structural filler.
And then you arrange the cheese-filled pasta in a snake shape on the platter.
Using 6 to 8 pieces, snaking across the plate. And the finishing touches sell the illusion. Barbecue sauce is lined strategically on top for the snake's markings.
And the face.
The eyes are made of whole black peppercorns for that stark contrast, and the tongue is a careful shaving cut from a peeled carrot. It's a brilliant example of transforming simple, cheap ingredients into a vivid, slightly horrifying creature that demands interaction.
But the undisputed heavyweight champion of gross-out theatricality, the one that truly tests the limits of what you should call food, has to be cat litter casserole.
This is peak boundary-pushing food theater. The ingredients are simple: Bisquick shredded cheddar cheese and a pound of ground meat beef, pork, or turkey. And the parent is instructed to mix this all thoroughly by hand.
And then the mixture is molded.
Molded by hand into various shapes and sizes of dumps.
I have to pause on that instruction again. The word dumps is used explicitly in the preparation steps. There is no misunderstanding the final visual goal here.
None whatsoever. The instruction is unapologetic. These molded pieces are baked at 350 degrees for 20 minutes until they're brown, crusty, and firm. They have to hold their shape.
And while that's baking, you prepare the litter.
Yes. Cooked long grain rice, which is then broken up and fluffed with a fork to look dry and granular.
And the terrible final assembly.
The fluffed dry rice is spooned onto the dish, mimicking the substrate. Then the baked, textured meat dumps are arranged on top, sometimes partially covered by the rice, to complete the illusion of a used litter box.
Wow.
This recipe isn't about flavor masking. It's about total visual immersion. It's a fascinating look at how you can hide protein in the form of ground meat and cheese under the guise of an utterly revolting visual gag.
That sets the bar incredibly high. Let's talk about chopped off fingers pizza on page 28. This is much simpler, relying more on geometry, but it's still visually very effective.
It relies entirely on smart, minimal butchery of common shapes. The fingers are just mozzarella sticks sliced crosswise in half, but the detail is in the fingernail.
Which is a red bell pepper.
Cored, stemmed, and seeded, and cut into half-inch pieces with rounded corners to perfectly mimic nails. The precision is high. A half-inch square is cut on the rounded end of the cheese stick to exactly fit the pepper nail.
And you arrange 3 of these fingers on each small 5-inch pizza crust with some sauce.
And it's a quick bake at 450 degrees for 8 minutes, just until the cheese softens and starts to slightly ooze. The visual impact of those stark red pepper nails on top of the slightly melted, oily cheese sticks is highly disturbing, but also undeniably appealing to a kid's sense of edgy humor.
The bodily output category continues with diaper dump porridge on page 40. This uses refrigerated tube biscuits as the base.
Biscuits from a refrigerated tube are sliced in half and then again sculpted by hand into dump shapes. The visual instruction is key. These shapes are then simmered in canned beef broth for 15 to 20 minutes, which lets them absorb the liquid and swell up.
And then they're transferred to a separate saucepan of chicken broth and water and served as a savory porridge.
It's taking a standard comfort dinner bread boiled in broth, like dumplings, and giving it a completely unappetizing name and shape to increase the novelty.
Following the theme of things you don't want to find in your food, we have homemade maggot stew on page 49. But this is actually a deeply flavorful and complex dish.
It is. This is where the cooking technique is far more involved than the name would suggest. It's a hearty beef stew. You use a pound of stew beef, cut into chunks, coated in seasoned flour, browned, and then simmered for an hour with stewed tomatoes, beef broth, a bay leaf, and thyme.
And then carrots and green beans are added for the final 45 minutes of simmering. It's a rich, traditional stew base.
The visual transformation comes entirely from one ingredient: pasta. Orzo pasta, 3/4 of a cup of it, is cooked separately until tender, drained, and then blended into the stew off the heat.
And the choice of orzo is critical.
It's the whole gag. Orzo, being that small rice-shaped pasta, is the intentional and perfect stand-in for maggots. Its size, its pale color, and its slightly plump, soft texture when it's cooked and mixed into the thick stew are geometrically ideal for achieving the desired gruesome effect. It's a clear example of using ingredient morphology to drive the presentation.
And finally, we must analyze the infamous hairball salad with saliva dressing on page 47.
This one combines two highly textural ingredients to create the ultimate gag salad. The hairball is achieved by mashing together a large ripe avocado and 2 cups of alfalfa sprouts with a fork.
The sprouts are key.
Essential. They mimic the loose, hair-like fibers that would compose a ball. This mixture is then formed into walnut-sized balls. The bed for these hairballs is 5 to 6 grated carrots.
And the saliva.
Italian salad dressing is poured over the whole thing. It's a really effective, disgusting use of contrasting colors and textures. The green, fuzzy-looking balls on top of the orange fibers, all covered in a slick dressing, to achieve a very potent, very unpleasant visual effect. But at the end of the day, you're getting your kid to eat avocados, sprouts, and carrots.
Which is the whole point. The macabre names are just the delivery vehicle for healthy foundational ingredients.
Moving away from the deliberate gore, this collection is equally strong in recipes that teach engagement purely through visual whimsy and face assembly.
Right. These dishes encourage kids to treat their plates like blank canvases, where basic geometry and ingredient placement are the primary artistic tools.
The concept of turning a simple circular food item into a recognizable face is a constant, highly effective thread. It utilizes basic components to teach children about shape recognition and food arrangement in a playful, low-stakes environment.
Let's look at the pancake faces, which are perfect canvases. We'll start with chickenpox pancakes on page 23.
The pancakes are stacked for height and drama, and the face is assembled on top using a ripe banana. The ends are cut for the eyes and nose, and a half slice is used for the mouth,
But the entire visual gag hinges on the chickenpox spots.
which are small chunks of fresh strawberries placed randomly around the face, all dusted liberally with confectioner's sugar. That final dusting gives it a slightly pale, sickly appearance that contrasts with the red spots. It's effective, fun, and uses basic healthy fruit.
And the simpler, more versatile version is clown faces on page 31.
This uses a large pancake as the main canvas. Poached or fried eggs serve as the eyes. Their circular shape and white color are ideal.
Sliced oranges for the mouth and ears, and a half cherry tomato for the nose.
Right. And the recipe is very practical because it immediately offers substitutions. The eggs can be replaced with halved peaches or apricots, the tomato with a fresh cherry. It even says you can omit the pancake entirely and just assemble the face on the plate, showing real flexibility.
And then there's cat's eyes on page 19, a quick cracker snack that also relies on facial features.
But with minimal ingredients. Peanut butter is spread on rich crackers, topped with a banana slice, and then a single raisin is placed precisely in the center of the banana to form the cat's eye. It's a very fast, 3-ingredient assembly that relies on high contrast and simple shapes.
And the use of nuts and fruits for face construction is used again in Daisy Apple on page 37.
This one focuses on combining protein and fiber. A cored apple is filled with peanut butter mixed with raisins or currants. Saved raisins are placed on top to form a smiley face, and peanuts are arranged around the peanut butter to mimic petals or hair.
And this recipe has a vital safety note.
Yes, to omit peanuts for small children or those with allergies. This shows that while the book is fun and whimsical, it maintains that necessary safety awareness for the adult preparing the meal.
Not all the visual tricks are faces, though. Flat cat cookies on page 43 turns standard sugar cookies into something a bit more theatrical and gruesome.
It does. Refrigerated cookie dough is rolled out, cut into flattened cat shapes, and baked. Cinnamon candies are pressed in for the nose and eyes. But the truly theatrical part is the finishing touch. Seedless strawberry jelly or jam is dribbled everywhere, like the blood.
That intentional use of a common dessert ingredient to mimic gore is fantastic. It turns a plain cookie into a tiny, tragic scene.
The collection also excels at creating these miniature environmental scenes, particularly aquatic ones, which leverage the unique properties of gelatin and broth. Jello Aquarium is a prime example.
This one relies entirely on timing and the semi-solid state of gelatin.
Exactly. Berry blue Jello is dissolved with boiling water, and then ice cubes are added to rapidly cool and thicken it. The trick is patience. You poke gummy fish candies into the jelly when it has almost thickened, but before it fully sets.
So they appear suspended in the water.
Right. If you add the candy too early, it just sinks to the bottom. And the fish in the river on page 41 is the savory equivalent of that aquatic scene.
Using fresh vegetables as the landscape.
Simple, effective, and classic. Celery stalks are the riverbanks. They're filled with cream cheese or cheese spread, which is the water. And they're topped with precisely 8 goldfish crackers per stalk, the fish. It's an effortless presentation that encourages vegetable consumption.
Another soup takes on an aquatic, albeit slightly unsettling theme, Dead Sea soup on page 38.
This starts with basic canned chicken with rice soup. The transformation is achieved purely by visual manipulation. You add blue and green food coloring until the broth resembles murky seawater.
And then you add things to it.
Artichoke hearts cut into little penny sizes, and chopped celery hearts with the stalks pulled apart to resemble seaweed. And the final flourish is sprinkling it with fish-shaped crackers and deliberately hanging celery stalks over the bowl edges to complete the seaweed effect. It turns a standard canned soup into a miniature, dramatic underwater scene.
So, synthesizing this whole collection, what stands out is this stark contrast between the two extreme approaches to preparation.
It really is. On one hand, you have the precise, almost scientific technical rigor of the candy recipes. You need a thermometer, you need to know about the 260-degree hard-boil stage, you need to manage crystallization.
And on the other hand, you have the chaotic, yet visually impactful assembly methods of the theatrical meals. That's the core synthesis, isn't it? The complexity is hidden. The caramel corn demands scientific rigor, but its name is just caramel corn.
Well, the basic spaghetti and potatoes, which is culinary kindergarten, gets the gruesome, highly imaginative title, Brains on the Half Skull. The performance is inverted. Simple tasks get these grand titles, and the difficult tasks are just called version 1 or version 2.
This inversion means the collection is fundamentally about teaching two things at the same time: basic, foundational cooking techniques, and the incredible game-changing value of presentation and creative naming.
We saw that shifting the language around a common dish, cottage cheese, tuna, gelatin, can completely change its appeal and turn a routine meal into an adventure for a child.
So what does this all mean for you, the listener? The value here is recognizing the sheer disruptive power of language and visual cues in engagement.
Think about the ingredients that are most difficult to sell to an audience, especially a young one. Cottage cheese, tuna, simple ground meat. These are the ingredients that were hidden behind the most outrageous, captivating, and interactive names. The next time you're faced with a culinary hurdle or just a truly boring Monday night meal, remember the extreme effort put into this macabre menu. They understood that novelty overrides skepticism.
Okay, here's the provocative thought to send you off with. Given the intense effort put into these creative names, which common, boring meal that you eat could be instantly improved by giving it a truly shocking creative title from the playbook we just explored?
Imagine turning simple, white rice, a ubiquitous and utterly bland side dish, into Maggot Hive.
Or renaming your perfectly standard chicken noodle soup, bog water broth with floaties.
I challenge you to rename your next meal using the logic of the macabre menu. Let us know how that changes the dining experience, even for the adults at the table. That's all the time we have for this deep dive into the most wanted and perhaps most disturbing kids' recipes. Until next time, keep digging.